Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you guys doing? Welcome home. We love that. Real quick announcement. Next week, Brandon Novak's coming in. He's always a fan favorite. It will be a party as usual. Happy holidays to all you guys, and thanks for coming out on a holiday weekend. And don't forget the meeting after the meeting. We're going to hang out here late, and we're going to do some important stuff. We don't know what that is yet. Our group has a commitment every Sunday night in Quakertown, 7 p.m. If you want to be of service, the men in there need a message of hope and recovery. There's no requirements for that, and that's what this group is all about. We recently purchased this year 500 big books. We give them away for free at these treatment centers. It's all because of your donations, contributions, and your hard work behind the scenes. Sometimes you can't come out and actually be of service, but sometimes you financially can, and that's an important part to carry the message to the sick and suffering. Anyway, we got the best chairman in the world today. Let's welcome Nick. Let's have some fun with it.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m., followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, sir.
I'm Lucas. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Lucas, welcome.
I'm David. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, David, welcome.
I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome.
I'm Lisa, and I'm just Billy out of town.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay. In the back? Yes, sir.
I'm Dave. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Dave, welcome. All right. And welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the floor for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 just up the street at the Salem UCC Church. Coffee is on at 6:15. Please come and join us. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. And all CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there, join our Facebook page to keep informed, and share upcoming events and meetings. And now with that, I have Brian to come up and read the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is Just for Today, a prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, Nancy's going to come up here. She's going to read the AA preamble.
Hi everybody, I'm Nancy, I'm an alcoholic. And here's the preamble. You set me up. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now Kara's going to read the next section.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kara. I am an alcoholic. Welcome home. The AA steps of recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, properly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And now Nick will come up and introduce our speaker.
The 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supported and declining outside contributions. At this time, we like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses, and this group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and try to limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Tonight we have Glen S. from the Big Book Study Group of Harrisburg.
Wow. Good evening, everybody. My name is Glen Shirley. I'm a very grateful, recovered alcoholic. Man, it's really cool to be here. I have to just qualify real quick. Ron talked me into having a cruller, and I have had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm kind of, I might need a 24-hour chip. I'm not sure. I'll have to let you know. I'm flying right now. I'm probably going to crash about 9 o'clock, so anyway, it's really an honor to be here at the Conscious Contact Group. So real quick, I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My home group is the Big Book Study Group in Harrisburg. We meet on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, but our group also has a commitment on Tuesday nights. We take a speaker meeting into a Gaudenzia facility in Harrisburg, speaker meeting, making sure that the person that's carrying the message has in fact had a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. I have a sponsor my sobriety date, May the 10th of 2001, by the grace of God in Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety date, home group, and I have a sponsor. Also have the honor to get to try to carry this message to other men in sponsorship in that form, passing on what was so freely given to me. I don't normally dress like this, but I do respect Alcoholics Anonymous. Ron said coat and tie, so I'm coat and tie. I learned how to take direction from not just my sponsor, but from other people, that I respect. But I will tell you this, I am wearing bacon and egg underwear, just so I don't take myself too seriously. You'll have to take my word for it. I'm just being rigorously honest, but I won't show you. Maybe if I had another cruller, I would show you. But anyway, golly, I absolutely love Alcoholics Anonymous. welcome home. That's what it says at Dr. Bob's house in Akron. And I love that you guys say that, because I know there are a lot of people that when they got to AA, it felt kind of weird and uncomfortable. And I got to tell you, when I got to the place that I wound up in May of 2001, for the first time in my life, I kind of felt like I found my people, I think. Like, I couldn't believe it. I literally felt like I had come home. And it was a weird feeling because I didn't know why I felt that way. But I can tell you, before coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, I never felt comfortable in my skin, ever. I always wanted to be somebody else. I always wanted to be somewhere else doing something else, no matter what I was doing. Even if what I was doing was awesome, I wanted to be doing something else. And I never felt comfortable just being me. Let's see. I grew up in South Carolina. I'm not going to do a birth to now story, but I was born and raised in South Carolina. My parents were divorced twice from each other. The second time, I was glad they got divorced. They tried as hard as they could. You know, they just weren't meant to be married to each other. But can't say they didn't try. I'm also an only child. Do we have any other only children in the house? Just you and me, dude? Bro, we are extra selfish and self-centered, man. I'll tell you what. Woo! We got it going on in spades. But anyway, yeah, child of divorce and only child. A lot of alcoholism in my family, but only my dad made it into the rooms of AA when I was 16 years old. And I didn't know what that meant. All I knew is that when I was 16, my dad stopped drinking. We had moved to Texas at this point. And he got married again to a woman, and they were married for 33 years. And my father passed away in 2020 with 34 years of continuous sobriety. And he's the reason that he gave me life twice. What can I say? He's the reason I'm standing up here tonight. And it wasn't from any pushing or preaching or prodding. Like I said, until I got here, I really didn't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous or recovery. He just lived the big book. He lived the program. And I saw definite changes in his life. Didn't know how he got there or what it meant, but I knew he was holding a job all of a sudden. He was staying married, and he wasn't drinking, and he seemed really happy about it. My relationship with alcohol, I started drinking like at a very young age, just like dabbling, like drinking sips of my dad's beer. We'd go to a wedding when I was like 5 or 6 years old, at my cousin's wedding. There'd be champagne, and I'd sneak some champagne, and I'd be running around like a crazy kid, and they'd be like, "Oh, Glen's hyper." It's like, yeah, no, actually, I had a good buzz going on running around the church. They didn't know that. My first experience of the physical allergy really kicking my butt was when I was 10 years old. I went to a party. A friend of mine in Texas, his brother was considerably older than us. He was a senior in high school while we were in like the 5th or 6th grade. And they were having a keg party. Parents weren't home. So we were back there sneaking beers out of the keg, and I felt that feeling, man. And I was just like, yeah, this is great. I was running around, kept hitting the keg. I don't know how many times. There was a woman in the kitchen. I say a woman. She was a senior in high school. To me, she was a grown, full-blown grown woman. And she thought it was cute. She was making me Tom Collins in the kitchen. And immediately, I fell head over heels in love with this woman. I knew that she loved me as well, and we were going to run off into the sunset together and be together forever. I just, you could see the hearts around her head. Anyway, she was just trying to get this kid drunk. That's pretty weird. But anyway, I liked it, and I wanted more of it. And then I puked straight up. I just got so sick. I ruined their living room, and had to I'm sorry if anybody just ate a crawler. I just used the puke word. But anyway, I had to explain to the parents the next day why I was so sick and, what was wrong with the living room and all that stuff. By the way, I was definitely a puker. That was kind of the way alcohol manifested itself. I mean, do we have any other pukers in the room? Come on, where are my pukers at? How about pants pissers? Bedwetters? Yeah, I never did that. But that must have been really humiliating. No, I'm kidding. That was a not yet for me, I guarantee it. But, we all have our different reactions. I was also a blackout. I blacked out a lot when I drank. That, if you don't black out, that doesn't mean you're not an alcoholic by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, from a very young age, I wanted to be anybody but myself. When I was like 3 years old, I would listen to comedy records. My parents had a lot of comedy records like Flip Wilson and Bill Cosby when it was still okay to talk about Bill because he was really awesome, and I had every one of his bits memorized at 3 to 5 years old. Steve Martin, Richard Pryor. My parents would trot me out at parties, and I would do these bits and these sketches, and I would get reactions, and that felt good too. That was like a drug as well, almost, because I was not being myself, and I was getting all this attention. So I was just destined to be in these rooms from the very get-go. I am. If I don't do anything stupid, on September 27th, I will have been married to my wife Nancy for 20 years, and we have and by the way, she's my second wife, and I'm her third husband. So we have 5 marriages between us. So I guess we're figuring out what not to do, and it seems to be working. So she's never seen me drunk. We have one daughter who graduated from high school 2 weeks ago and she's going to be going to Arcadia here in the fall. She's never seen me drunk, which is an absolute miracle. But I was married before, and with all the wreckage that comes with drinking and trying to control it, and having that old physical allergy kick in and kicking my butt, and me not being able to figure out why I'm always the guy at the party or at the get-together that's drinking too much, and don't know how I got home, and how did he get home? Did anybody get Glen home? Did somebody give him a ride? Where's my car? All of those fun things. Just trying to beat the game, like the obsession of every abnormal drinker is to try to control and enjoy their drinking. And if I was controlling my drinking, I wasn't enjoying it. If I was enjoying it, there's no way I was controlling it. I wrecked a total 3 perfectly good vehicles. One was on Interstate 10 between San Antonio and Kerrville, Texas. I woke up from a blackout about to run into the back of a truck, and I flipped over Interstate 10 onto the other side of the road. I made it out completely unscathed. I had cassette tapes that were shattered into sawdust and mud and dirt on the hoop of my car. Didn't get charged with anything. I was hammered. I don't know how. I didn't get taken to a hospital, didn't get put in a police car. Got home, saw my vehicle, and I was just like, oh man, that's crazy. I can't believe it. I was like, how old was I? 20? 19? I was like, that's crazy. Kept right on going. Winston Churchill, I think, is one that says sometimes a man will stumble over the truth, but unfortunately most of the time, most men will just pick themselves up and walk along like nothing ever happened. That was my experience that night with that accident. Fast forward a few years, I had another accident and totaled a van. I was by myself. Both of those times, the last time I wrecked a vehicle, it was 99. And I was about to go see the Phantom Menace premiere in the town I was living. But my friend and I had been drinking at the bar all evening from like 5 o'clock. It was a midnight screening, so we've been drinking all night. We went, but I thought on the way to the theater, let's stop by my house. We'll get a joint and we'll smoke that because it wasn't drunk enough or whatever. So it just sounded like a great idea. So we get about a quarter of a mile from my house. I was going so fast in this 30-mile-an-hour road. And ended up crashing through this family's fence, wound up on the hood, upside down in the car, both strapped in, upside down. The Black Crowes were blaring I can just remember it like it was yesterday. Blaring, it's a song called "Can't You Make This Thing Go Faster?" And we're hanging upside down next to the deck of these people's houses. Thank God we didn't kill anybody. We're hanging upside down, and my friend had broken his arm on the dashboard. I had broken my hand from the airbag, and all we were talking about was, okay, when the cops get, I couldn't turn the radio down. I was like, okay, when the cops get here, we'll just say that somebody came on my side of the road and I swerved to miss them, and that's how this happened. And they kept on going. I woke up the next morning in a hospital with no injuries other than this little finger that was broken. My friend was in another hospital across town. I woke up in the emergency room, in just a room in the back in the dark, not strapped down or anything. I walked out, walked to the lobby. Nobody said anything to me. I called a guy at work. I was supposed to be at work at the time, but this was at like 9 o'clock the next morning. Called me up, and I called a guy and said, "Can you come get me? I'm at Harrisburg Hospital." And I guess they're going to let me go. My point is, I don't know how, but I've never gotten a DUI. I've never been in jail. None of that makes me not an alcoholic. I can feel the resentment coming towards me right now from some people. Like, how did you pull it? I've been in the back of police cars and gotten out of it. But I don't know how. What makes me an alcoholic is the fact that when I drink, I can't tell you how much I'm going to have. The doctor's opinion in the front of our big book talks about the physical allergy. We believe that once we put alcohol in our bodies, we cannot tell you how much we're going to drink every time. Every once in a while I could have a couple of drinks, right? 2 or 3. Now, I don't know if the craving was satisfied. I wasn't paying attention to that back then when I drank, but I'm just telling you. And that's what my brain would go back to every time that I would start to drink again. Oh, well, I'm just going to have a couple. I've done it before. So, I'll just have a couple. So the real problem is in my mind, that old mental obsession, which I have a brain that tells me it's going to be different this time. I'll be able to manage it. I'll forget the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month or the night before. I will not be able to bring into the consciousness that suffering. That won't be enough to keep me from picking up that drink. I proved that to myself over and over and over again. So in 1999, after that car wreck, that day when that guy picked me up from the hospital, we went to the auto body shop, and I saw my Camry that was just totaled. And I remember I fell down to my knees, and I was weeping, just bawling, because I was like, I almost killed my friend. Who knows if I'd have killed somebody in that backyard of that house? If somebody would have been out in the backyard at midnight, who knows? Thank God nobody died, but I remember just really saying, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do that again. But I didn't mean I was never going to drink again. Like I never remember trying to swear off alcohol ever. When I would say that stuff, it would mean I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to drink like that. I'm not going to have that consequence again. I never really said I shouldn't ever drink again. That never crossed my mind. And you would think that's where I stopped, but as we all know, because we all know each other, I still had a couple of more years left in me after that. So real fast, I was married once before. She had a daughter who was 3 years old when we got together in 1988. We got married in 1992, and she gave me the news on the way home from dropping Nicole off at her dad's halfway up the road. That she had cheated on me. I'm a musician, it's my full-time job, just part-time. I just used to play out in the bars all the time. And I was in a band with my wife at the time and a couple of friends of ours. And she let me know that she, on the way home, that she was in an affair with our bass player, who was a mutual friend of ours. I almost drove off the road. I was stone cold sober when she told me that. And I just, my whole world came crashing in. Again, that was 1996, and I just was like, well, how about if I get an apartment and you guys stay in the townhouse and we'll try to figure this out? And she was like, no, he's already gotten me and Nicole a place to live, so and I was like, okay, this is really done. And I just, that marriage fell apart, and I held that, man, that was my first true resentment that I remember having, and I hung on to it for years. In fact, that's when my drinking and outside issues really kicked into high gear. That's when I really started drinking, and everything was her fault. And anytime I think about grandma, I don't think I dated more than 2 women in the 5 years before I got sober, just because I was so angry and so much drink. The only time, by the time I had that accident in 1999, the only time I ever left the house was if I had to go to work, if if I had a gig to play out so that I could drink the free drinks at the bar and get money to go do my outside issues, take care of the dry goods. Other than that, I was home in my cave with blankets on the walls. I had a window over the door that I had a piece of cardboard cut out that was perfectly measured so that nobody could see in, because I knew the neighbors were watching everything I was doing, surveillance. I was just, I was dying. I was dying on the inside. It never crossed my mind to stop drinking entirely. And they were getting on me at work. They were telling me, is there a problem? Because I kept coming in late to work, missing work. I'm in broadcasting. I'm in radio. I've been doing radio since I was 14 in a little town in Texas. But I've been at the same place, the same station in Harrisburg since 1992. 31 years. They've seen me through the worst. And by the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, they've gotten 22 good years of employment out of me since I hit my bottom. Anyway, they were up my butt saying, what's going on here? You have a problem? We need, because in my business, that wasn't super frowned on, as long as you could maintain, you could do it at work. They didn't care, but got to show up. It helps. You're supposed to be on and you're there. And we didn't have the technology to do it from home back then. So it was May the 9th of 2001 that I had this. They talk about the 4 horsemen that come down on us. And this particular night was not the worst night I had drinking. I barely was even drunk, hardly at all. I didn't have any consequences this particular night. It just was this sense of impending doom that had been welling up in me for weeks, months, probably years, but it had come to a head. And I had done many foxhole prayers in my life. God, get me out of this, and I won't do whatever again. Get me out of this. And as you know, He got me out of a lot of stuff, and I just kept right on going. But this particular night, I cried out to God. All I said was, "God, help me," because I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I was too much of a wuss to take my own life. But I wasn't doing anything to keep myself alive either. So when I hit this bottom, I picked up the phone and called the only person that I knew to call, and that was my dad. He worked by this point, he had been working for a treatment center out in Texas. He wasn't a counselor or anything else. He was just worked in the operations office, and he would take the calls if somebody was trying to get in, find out the insurance they had, and if they have a bed and all of that. So I called him up, and as the phone's ringing, I'm like, oh man, what's going on? I should not have. If he answers, my life is over. And he answered, and I'm crying. I'm like, Dad, I know you think you know how bad it is, but you don't really know how bad it is. And I'm bawling. I'm like, I feel like I'm dying, and I don't know what to do. And he said, okay, hang on a minute. Let me find out if we have a bed, and I'll call you right back. Don't do anything stupid. It's like, okay. So about 10 minutes later, he calls me back, and he's like, okay, we're going to get you on a plane out of Baltimore, which is about an hour and a half south of Harrisburg. So we're going to get you on a plane out of Baltimore tomorrow afternoon at 4. And I was like, oh, tomorrow? Wait a minute. That's, I've got I got to go to work. And all of a sudden, work's important. I got stuff to do this weekend. I got some gigs. I was like, how about Monday? Can I come out there on Monday? And he said, words I'll never forget. He said, son, you just called me crying, saying you were dying. He said, if you were having a heart attack, you'd be in the back of an ambulance on the way to the hospital. Do you want to live? And I said, yeah, I do. I'll be on the plane. He's like, good, you pay me back for the ticket as soon as you can, and whatever the insurance doesn't pick up, you're going to owe that. And, just hold me accountable. So this girl I worked with took me to work because I was hiding my truck at a friend's house because they were going to take my truck. I was about 6 or 7 months behind on my mortgage. I didn't know you could do that, but apparently you can. But the bank was up my butt about to foreclose on that. So anyway, I go into work and go up to the boss and say, surprise, you've been right the whole time. I've got to go away if you'll let me. I didn't know they had to let me, so I was just like, can I do this? I was probably secretly hoping they would say, no, you can't leave. You're way too valuable. We can't possibly do without you for a whole month. So they were like, good. They had me sign a paper and say, okay, you're going to go away for a month, and when you come back, you're going to take random tests, and if you have a hot urine, you're going to be fired immediately, no questions asked. I said, that sounds fair enough. So I go back to my townhouse, and this girl and her boyfriend go in with me, and they see my townhouse and all of its alcoholic glory, the den that we live in with, the blankets on the walls like I described, cigarette burns and cigarettes all over the floor, and I had bad issues with pornography, so that was all over the place. Didn't have time to tidy up before they came over, so I really didn't care at that point. I was just like, whatever. I was at the end of my rope. So we're on the way to Baltimore. This is another God thing. We're about halfway down there, and I realized, bless you, I didn't have my wallet on me. So I'm like, we got to go back. I got to get my wallet. And they both turned around, and they were like, no, we are not going back, because they knew that I would miss the plane. So they figured, well, you got to at least try. So we get to the airport, and I walk up. By the way, I used to have hair down to here, and about 3 months before this happened, I got really tired of it getting in my way when I was doing the dry goods. So I cut my own hair off to about here. I gave my own self like a bob or whatever they call it. It was very attractive. It was a great idea at the time. Just kitchen scissors. All right, let's go. Anyway, so we get to the airport, and I walk up to the counter, and I'm like, I've got a flight at 4 o'clock to San Antonio, and I need to get on, but I don't have my ID. She's like, I'm sorry, sir, we can't let you on the plane without ID. And so I dropped the bombshell on her. I'm going to rehab. I'm sure she was shocked. But anyway, she's like, let me talk to my supervisor. The woman came out. I told her I was going to treatment, and I really needed to be on that plane. And I really wanted to be on that plane. I don't know why. God gave me some willingness. And she said, okay, we'll get you on. I had to sign a waiver. She had to verify something with the airline in San Antonio, and I got on that plane. And if that would have happened 3 months later, I wasn't going to get on that plane no matter what happened, because that would have been after 9/11. So God's perfect timing, and I wasn't saying, oh, wow, God got me on the plane. This is awesome. This is all hindsight. This is all hindsight, like my whole life. Looking back. So fortunately, when I got to work, by the way, I had a resentment there too, because I didn't have a wallet, so I couldn't get my last drunk on the plane like everybody else that was there. It was wasted when they got to rehab. So I was kind of bummed about that. So I showed up at rehab without drinking, but went into the detox special care unit for 3 or 4 days. Thank God the place that I went, not any better, not any worse than any other, but it was the right place for me. And I was given a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous when I first walked in the door. Did not know what that meant. I knew nothing about recovery. I knew nothing about AA or the steps. My truth is, when I got there, when I was on my way there, what I thought was going to happen is that I was going to stop doing the other stuff and learn how to drink right, which is what I've been trying to do the whole time. I'm like, okay, well, this is where that's going to happen. Thank God they told me the truth. And for the first 2 weeks with this one gentleman who's my sponsor and has been for 20 years now, as of this month, he got an hour a morning with the patients. And he was just an alumni guy. He wasn't a counselor or anything. He was a recovered alcoholic. And he got an hour with the patients to go over step 1. So 5 days sober. In this bodega, there was a room very much like this, with about this many people in there. He's talking about the physical allergy to alcohol. And I'm sitting there coming out of detox, but I'm hearing this for the first time. And it, like light bulb, for me, light bulbs were going off. I'm like, oh my God, this explains like so much about my relationship with alcohol for the last 20 years. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, it's the answer. I'm allergic to it. When I have an abnormal reaction to it. That explains everything. And then he went into, more about alcoholism, and there's a solution about the biggest problem about the mental obsession and how my brain, I will never be able to successfully use alcohol, but my brain will not honor that. Even though my brain knows that, it's not able to, on its own, keep me from drinking. Fear won't keep me from drinking. Wrecking cars, saying I'm swearing off, it never crossed my mind to stop entirely. And I wasn't even 100% sure I was an alcoholic at that point. But then, he read the line from We Agnostics. And I have it memorized, but I like to read it from the book because I don't trust myself. Beginning of page, there's the very opening of We Agnostics on page 44. This is one of my favorite lines in the book. This is the line that got me to realize that I'm an alcoholic. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. And if that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So, even after everything leading up to that, I was buying the physical allergy. I wasn't still sure that I was an alcoholic. But when I got to this, if when you honestly want to, you find you can't quit entirely, I was like, well, I never wanted to quit entirely. But then there's the or, and thank God it didn't say and. It says, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably alcoholic. And they told me to look at my truth based on my experience with alcohol. And I could not deny it after that. And then they started talking about a spiritual experience and God and higher power, and I was freaked out about that. But the good thing is that they had given me a good case of alcoholism, and I truly believed I was hopeless. I didn't come in desperate. I got there hopeless because I really didn't know how I was going to go on without drinking. My whole life revolved around drinking. Everything around my life involved drinking and doing anything I could to not feel like myself. And party, it started out party, use that as a verb, we're going to party, there was no party at the end. So I had always looked for God. I grew up going to church and Sunday school. And I even joined a church one time by myself with my neighbors while my parents were still married that second time. I got up in middle school and rode my bike down to the Methodist church and joined it. I was seeking something, but then about the time I was 15 and started really going off to the races, I knew that I was living in a way that would not be approved of by my higher power at that time. So I just started pushing God out of my life completely. Until I needed it, until I was in trouble. God, get me out of this. And okay, now you can go away for a while. Until I need you again. So I had some kind of a faith. I knew I was not an atheist. But I'd never been introduced to this concept that Alcoholics Anonymous has. And they were like, why don't you choose your own conception of God? And I was like, you can't do that. That's against the rules. But another thing that attracted me to these guys, and I really try to watch myself when I'm speaking from the podium cussing, but I got to tell you something. As a 34-year-old dude who's emotionally about 12 to 15 years old, I get to this place, and these guys are not drinking. They're happy. They're happy. They're smoking. They're cussing. And talking about God. And I was like, wow, really? I could get down with that. I mean, what are y'all doing? How can you do that? I really thought it was, I loved it because it was so rebellious. I was so against the rules that I'd grown up in. So it opened my mind up enough to believe that there was something out there that wasn't me, that could restore me to sanity. The fact that it had never crossed my mind to stop entirely is absolutely insane. How that never crossed my mind, and I didn't realize that until I was a couple of years sober. I was like, man, how did that never cross my mind? So I did the third step prayer there. They said, look, for now, just you're making a decision to continue on with the rest of the program, which I didn't know what that was. They explained it to me as much as they could. I was just willing to do whatever. I was like, okay, that sounds great. So I said the prayer, offer myself to thee to build me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, victory over them, may bear witness to those I would help. Thy power, thy love, and thy way of life, may I do thy will always. I repeated that after the woman that did the prayer with us. There was 2 other dudes and me, and I'll never forget that day. Because I really felt like such a hypocrite. I was like, man, really? But just like that night when I cried out to God and I called my dad, I think God knows when we mean it, even when we're not sure if we do or not. And God knew right there that it must have, because I'm standing up here still. And right after that, that very afternoon, I was given the directions for a 4th step. Again, completely naive. I didn't know anything. And I was like, okay. So they told me to make a grudge list. Write down a list of people that you're mad at, and institutions, work, post office, hospital, school, whatever, and principles. And I didn't know what principles were, and I didn't care. They were like, well, don't worry about it. More will be revealed. So I was in triage at this point. So they were just trying to show me the truth. So I'm like, yeah, I go back to my bunk and I'm writing down everybody I'm mad at. Top of that list, my first wife, obviously. My parents were on there too, and a lot of people. And so then the next afternoon we go back the very next day and they're like, okay, and then it's column 2 and column 3. I want you to write down what they did to you, 1 page for each person. Write down what they did. Why are you mad at them? Why are you pissed? And then in the 3rd column, what did it affect? And they gave me the 7 areas of self that the book talks about in there. I was like, oh, this is so good. And I go back and I'm writing down what they did. And they said, use real language, if you whatever, just write down how you're really feeling in there, but keep it brief. And so this is awesome. And I go back the next day and they're like, okay, now on the back of your paper, we've saved the entire back page for the 4th column. And now what I want you to do is go back and resolutely look for your mistakes. And I was like, that's not as fun. That's not going to be as enjoyable as the last 2 days that I was writing this stuff down. I'm like, what do you mean? She cheated on me. I mean, that was what my whole life was built on for the last 5 years. The cardinal sin. She broke the relationship. I'm like, how? What am I supposed to write in there? They gave me some help. I prayed to the God of my understanding at that time to show me the truth. And I was able to find plenty of stuff to write down in that 4th column. There was never any physical abuse, but I certainly verbally abused, and I was selfish, and I withheld affection, and the pornography addiction. That was as selfish. I did not give her the affection and the love and the attention that she deserved. And I made her worry, when I would be out and doing stuff, causing jealousy, bitterness, and suspicion. Even though I never cheated on her, that made me perfect and her, So, but again, I have to disregard the other person involved entirely. I was like, entirely? No, entirely. So I wrote all that down. Fast forward, it's time for me to get out. I'm about done with this 4th step. And what the most important thing they told me was, okay, what you've learned here over this last month has been incredible, very helpful, but it is not going to keep you sober. They said, you don't have 20 minutes to mess around when you get off this campus. You need to get a sponsor, finish these steps, get a home group, be of service, have a spiritual awakening by doing this, and turn around and try to show somebody else how to do this. And you'll stay sober. Guaranteed. So that sounds like a pretty good deal. So I got out. I was terrified to come back to Pennsylvania from Texas because I was going back into my townhouse, the same job. I don't know how they survived for 30 days without me. I can't believe it. They were just like, oh, hey, welcome back. I was like, ego, just. So I get back and I get a home group. And it took me a little while to find a sponsor that would help me finish this work, that wasn't telling me that I was moving too fast. That's just my experience, because they told me what to look for in a sponsor, and they told me, don't be afraid to ask this question, because it's only life or death. When you're going up to folks, listen to what they're sharing, talk to them after the meetings, but ask them if they've had a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, and if they continue to practice the 12 steps. If they look at you cross-eyed, run. That's what they told me. And that happened a couple of times. But I found this one guy. I went right up to him, Bob Sharkey. I'll bust his anonymity. God bless, rest in peace. He passed away 4 years ago, but that man saved my life. I said, can you sponsor me if you had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps? He's like, yeah. Why? What are you doing? I just met him like a month ago. He's like, what step are you on? I was like, I'm trying to finish this 4th step and do a 5th step. He's like, oh, come on, let's go to the house. I was like, okay, let's go. Because I was truly naive. Like, I did not know that you could not work the steps. That's how naive I was. I didn't know that you could be in AA and not work the steps. I mean, you can. My experience is you're not going to get the promises and the results that they talk about in the big book and the stuff that we hear. The results probably won't look the same as the first 100. But you can. But boy, that gave me a resentment when I got in. It was like, how are you not working this? You didn't have to do this? Anyway, I got over it. Because I had that spiritual awakening, you know. So anyway, I dumped my 5th step with this man, and it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I was so terrified to tell some of this stuff, all those deep, dark nook and cranny secrets, and all my character defects. I didn't have any when I got to AA, and I had so many there. And when that was over, he got up and gave me a hug, and for the first time, I truly felt like I belonged in Alcoholics Anonymous. I truly believed I was an alcoholic, but I also had hope for the first time in my life that I might be able to get through life without drinking and enjoy it like I see a lot of these other people doing. We went through my character defects, and they became objectionable to me, obviously. And he did the 7-step prayer with me. I did my 7-step prayer with Bob. And from there, I made my list, my 8-step list. I love the warm-up steps in AA. Bill knew us so well. Give me the 6 Oxford group tenets, I'd be like, what? They're awesome now, But then it would be like, oh God, that's a lot. But I get to warm up. I get to come to believe that there's a power greater. Then I turn my life over to it, and I get to write all this stuff down between me and God before I dump it on somebody else. Then I get to look at my character defects and kind of see what's objectionable to me before I ask God to take all of them, every one, good and bad, all of me. He decides what's gone. The amends, I get the 8th step. I get to, it's the warm-up for the amends. Make a list of immediately, maybe, and never. Those are the categories I was told to put my amends in. And I made index cards. And I actually had my first wife in the maybe column. And that was the first one that my sponsor asked me to make, actually. Because he knew that was the one that was kicking my butt more than anything else. And so I called her up, I invited her over, and asked a good time for her that was acceptable to her, and told her what I was doing. She knew I'd gone to rehab and everything, and that I was in AA, and I needed to do this for my recovery. So she came over, and I didn't bring up the thing at all. I just went down the list on my card of the stuff that I had done, and how shabbily I had treated her, and what a bad husband that I had been, and told her that I forgave her. And then I asked her if Bob had me write down, is there any other way I've harmed you that I'm not aware of? And I was supposed to listen, leave space to write that down. And she, by the grace of God, said no. She's like, I can't believe you've been sober for 60 days. She's like, I never thought you could go 2 months. I just want you to be happy. And I can tell you, one of the gifts of this program is Nicole, her daughter, is now going to be 39 this year. She's been in my life the whole time. So is my first wife. My wife, Nancy, we go to their house. And my daughter, we go to and she's married to the guy that she had the affair with. We go to their house for birthday parties for Nicole's daughter. They were just over at Emily's graduation party. How does that happen? Not on Glen's power, that's for sure. That is only by the grace of God. Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, changed my life, rearranged my entire thinking. So God, unbeknownst to me, sent me to treatment. Treatment opened my mind to a higher power and took me to Alcoholics Anonymous. And Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the God of my understanding that I can never repay. That's why I love to try to carry the message, because I know if we just submit to this process, it's guaranteed to happen. And we all have our own stuff. We all have our own whatever it is. I don't judge what's worse, what's better. Our stuff is our stuff, and it's the worst stuff to us. And it's the big hairy eyeball. It's the stuff I'm gonna keep secret and don't want to admit. And I swear, guys, that I think the most important step of all of them, they're all important. But I guess I've been just seeing this a lot lately, and for long-term sobriety, that 10th step, man. Staying current, staying transparent, because I see too many people with long-term sobriety kind of have this feeling, oh, I got to have my act together. I got to look good, and I can't have any, I can't act such a way. I'm Mr. AA, or I'm Miss AA, or whatever. And that gets so dangerous. I see too many people pull back from the fellowship and end up going back out. I've got to stay transparent. I've got to stay honest. I got to stay accountable with somebody. It's the book says, it's easy to rest on our laurels. So, when I make a mistake, when I mess up, when I step on somebody, I continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, not if they crop up. When. That means it's going to happen. My family and I just got back from an 8-day cruise out of Manhattan to the Caribbean. My wife and I have been on a dozen cruises. That's something I never thought I'd want to do. And I never cruised until I got sober. Who knew? I've never been drunk on a boat. Go figure. And by the grace of God, I never will be. But I'm going to end with my favorite promises from the book here in a few minutes. But I just want to tell you, one of my biggest fears from when I was about 12 to 15 years old was driving in Manhattan. I've been to New York many times, been to conferences there, Broadway shows, you name it, been to Queens, been to Brooklyn, been to Manhattan, been all over, but I've never driven because I was terrified of driving in the city. Well, guess where we're cruising out of? Port of Manhattan, right there in Hell's Kitchen. I'm like, oh, we go through the Lincoln Tunnel and everything? All right, let's do it. So I look at the GPS and we're going through the Lincoln Tunnel. And as soon as we get to the other side, thankfully we didn't stop. We get to the other side and there it is. Big hairy eyeball monster of New York and all the traffic and right then my iPhone stops working. The GPS is just like, oh, turn here, no, go straight, no, turn here. And I'm just like, I'm freaking out. And I don't know how, but the girl, we went with her, Emily's cousin. They both graduated this year, so they shared a cabin. So they're in the back seat. Nancy's up here trying to graduate, and at some point, I don't even remember what was said, but I just went, shut up! This was 2 weeks ago. Not even. Got 22 years of sobriety. Was I proud of that? No. Did I realize as soon as I went, shoo, it was almost like slow motion, because that's the thing, I'm not perfect. I just get faster at recognizing that I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? And so it was almost slow motion, because I don't want to have to make amends and stuff. And so it was almost like, shut up. And I turned around and my daughter was looking like, oh, because I'd say, you say shut up, the young people today, that's like one of the worst things you could say to somebody, man. That's like, I just MF'd her or whatever. But anyway, so right away, man, I knew I had messed up, and I said, because it was all fear, obviously. They don't care why. They just know I told her to shut up. So I made amends immediately. I calmed down. I said, I paused. I asked God for the right words, the right thought or actions, because I didn't want to just say I'm sorry. I said, listen, you don't care why. I'm afraid right now. And my reaction was absolutely disproportionate to what it should have been right now. You didn't deserve that. And I am truly sorry. And I will do everything I can to not let that happen again. And they forgave me. And we're still married. So I think we're on track for that 20-year anniversary in September. And we had a great cruise. We had a great time. And it was cool driving back home from Manhattan. Step 11, prayer and meditation. When I just saw something that blew my mind. I also love finding out new stuff. I love hearing new things and stuff that blows my mind. If the day that my mind can't be blown by something, I don't know, I'm in trouble. Because I love hearing stuff. In AA, out of AA, and I'm pulling my phone out because I don't remember stuff. And it's 2023, so we use these all the time. So A, B's, and C's, God could and would if he were sought, is C, right? And that's great. That's like the third step, That God could and would if he were sought. I love that. I hung my hat on that. I was like, okay, it's not about finding God. It's about seeking God when I was new. I was like, so all I have to do is seek God and I'm on my way. And that's true. But I have found, in being around for a few 24 hours, at some point, and this happened a long time ago, I did find the God of my understanding. And what I've been doing, I've been using the word wrong lately, seeking, and somebody turned me on to the word pursue. Am I pursuing God today? Seek, attempt to find, obtain, or achieve something. Pursue, follow, or chase something or someone. Another word for seek is pursue. To me, that means I'm no longer looking for God. I know that God is with me. I am now pursuing God, following, chasing. It's the jump from step 2 to step 3. And step 11. What am I doing to pursue God today? When spending time with God is a priority, I will always find a way. If not, I'll find an excuse. I used to hear people talk about that with the gym and exercise, and so I turned it into spending time with God. Because I need that too. I'm not up here being holier than thou. This is for me, y'all. Pursuing God needs to be my first priority, not my last resort. Which it always was. God was always my last resort before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I also get to try to carry this message to other people and get to try to show them how to have their own spiritual awakening as the result of taking the actions in this book. But staying transparent, staying current is so important. And I'm going to end with my favorite promises in the book because they're all through the book. I know a lot of meetings read the 9th step promises, which at first, when I got here, I would hear the 9th step promises in meetings, And I'm talking about my first 30, 60 days when we're just new and fog's clearing. It'd be like, they wouldn't say these are the 9th step promises. They'd just say these are the promises. And then they'd say, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. And I'm thinking, well, halfway through the meeting? What are you talking about? How fast does this happen? And they meant halfway through making my amends. And I found that to be absolutely true. No, my favorite promises, because again, I told you, I didn't know when I got here, when I believed that I'm an alcoholic with no reservations and I couldn't ever successfully drink again. How am I going to do that? I'll never be able to do that. And they said, yes, you absolutely can do that if you will do this work. And they pointed me to the 10th step promises. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. Here's that sane word again. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. I'll stop there because I've heard people misinterpret that. Oh, I don't have to do anything. It just happens. They're talking about, in this passage, they're talking about in the moment of if there's any temptation or thought, that I will recoil from it as from a hot flame in the moment. I've done a little bit of work. We do a little bit of work getting up to the 10th step. So don't let that fool you like, oh, it just happens. But that is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality. safe and protected, not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And there's the rub. That's why I have the tools of the 11th step and the 12th step. What am I doing to pursue God today? What am I doing to try to help that other sick and suffering alcoholic today? How can I be of maximum service? It's my favorite thing in the world to talk about, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I could go for 2, 3, 4 more hours, especially if I have another cruller and another cup of y'all's coffee. But that's all my time. That's all I have to share right now. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Okay, good evening once again, everyone. My name's Brian. I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, I want to thank Glen for coming out to our group tonight, delivering an incredible message of hope and recovery. Again, the food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, so feel free to show up early, enjoy the refreshments and the food that we put out. If you want to get involved with some service work with this group, we appreciate it too. There's always a meeting after the meeting. If you're out there, you're new, you're struggling, grab somebody after the meeting. There'll be a whole group of us hanging out. If you want to help us out with some service work afterwards, we got to put these chairs away. Got to put away the chairs in the front and on the sides. The ones on the tables back there will stay right where they go. It's customary for us to thank our speakers. They come here on their own time and expense, so we usually form a line in the front here. Thank our speakers personally. Thanks to everybody that helped out tonight. Thanks to our greeters, our readers. Thanks to everybody for helping out in the kitchen. And if you do care to join us, we have a nice way of closing.